Let me tell you how you blew my mind. Because again, we recognize how search one is evolving. We're starting to search through chat gpt, and especially as as certain versions allow more access to the internet and whatnot, and how that can influence what's out there. But just, I asked you before we started, is did you give it any like location specifics, anything like that? And I'm like, oh wow, it used me. There's more than one Cher Jones, and it used me to describe, and it described me well enough that it's just holy cow. I was so surprised. And then it just, again, it blows my mind into thinking that yet another aspect of personal branding has been unearthed, in the sense of how is chat gpt going to describe you? And that I hadn't, to be honest, I hadn't thought about that, because I've never, let's, for lack of a better word, chat gpt'd myself or googled myself on chat gpt. I just never did. And then to go into, to have that much detail. And I think chat gpt is a wonderful tool, and it is going to, and so I'm sure leading into that direction around its impact on personal branding, because it's going to be significant. But there are a lot of things that people need to be aware of. So I'll pass the mic back to you and see where you want to go with this conversation.
Yeah, no, and that's the interesting part because for me, honestly, I signed up for LinkedIn a long time ago, but I didn't actively start using it until like 2016, 2017. So I had been active on social media. And that's where I find that it's fascinating that it knows nothing about me because I was pretty active, right?
Hmm.
From 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, up until 2020, 21. Like I would have thought that I would done pretty well, really, to have myself out there. But I didn't have a website. I didn't do any media at that time. So that's where it's like, what is it picking up? And how do you influence it? That's where it's like,
Yeah.
how do you, because AI has, depending on how it's structured, how it's created, how it's trained, it may have some implicit biases in terms of how it's actually created and how it runs. And we don't necessarily know all of that. So, how do you influence it
That's
when
the
you
question.
don't see how it's pulling you data?
My guess would be, at this point, it's looking for what it would designate, or yeah, I guess designate as a reliable source. So yes, you, but then where else do you show up that someone else has verified or validated your credibility? So I'm looking at, when I think about what I have out there, in the sense of other people other than LinkedIn, because you would think at least it would leverage LinkedIn or something like that. But then I think about the amount of stages I've been on over the last 8, 10 years or whatever. And then stuff with the media, stuff where I've been mentioned or quoted in articles and stuff like that. I would assume, but I really don't know. So that's a question for ChatGPT.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, where do
But
you,
it's also a question for individuals and organizations because I'm sure you could look up organizations that way as well too, is how are you building a digital footprint in such a way that's going to set you up for success, not only just right now, but 5, 10 years from now? Like,
yeah,
what does this look like in the future? Because it's constantly evolving and it's constantly being trained in different ways, right?
yeah. And that part's mind blowing, because because here's the problem that most people have.